Can we turn this down?
It's cold.
Hey, Gina. Miss Gina.
Tell them to put another log on the fire.
We'd like to remember Sabrina Knowles' family. Gina White, Smith County High School grandmother, passed away. Miss Norma Mitchell, her aunt, has passed away. And Kayla Kemp from Defeated Elementary School, grandfather, passed away. Is there anyone else that we'd like to remember in prayer tonight? Biddy. Remember that family. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Anyone else? Remember all of us. Anybody else? If you bow with me. Father, as we come to you, we'd like to thank you for this day and the opportunities that you've given us, that we might be in this place where something that we do might be helpful to another person that's traveling this same path that we are. We know we make a lot of mistakes, Father. It's not our intention to, but being human, we're terribly fallible some days, and I know that I am greatly as well. We'd ask for your forgiveness for those things. Help us in this meeting as we're gathered together here, Father, that we would do the things that are pleasing in your sight. However, most importantly, those things that are beneficial to our children, our employees, and our school system as a whole, because that is why we're here. I ask that you lead, guide, and direct us in all things, and constantly please forgive us where we fail you. For it's in Christ's name most humbly pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First on the agenda is, I'd like to turn this over now to Mr. Scotty Lewis. He has a presentation he would like to make. At this time, Mr. Lewis.
Thanks, sir. To my other board members, there's a gentleman in the crowd tonight, Mr. Harold Pittman, who works with me, and through interaction with him and working with him, I have become intensely familiar with his grandson Scott and his behavior, inasmuch as even though we lost Scott not too long ago, but a little bit ago, there's still children that send him text messages of what that young man's character and attitude and abilities and things meant to them, and he shows those to me. And I just thought it was worthwhile that even though this young man is obviously in a better place, someone that has left that type of impact, that students are still talking about that to this day, and how his character was, how his attitude was, that it was worthwhile that the board take just a moment and just recognize somebody for that, because they've left an impact. You know, they've left a footprint in our community that means a lot to other children. If it wasn't, I wouldn't be reading text messages that I still see now. So I wanted to just read a little something about Scott here. If you'll bear with me a minute, he was a 2019 graduate of Gordonsville High School, and Scott played football for the Gordonsville Tigers from 2015 to 2018. He was a 3-year starter for the Tigers and selected to the All-Region team in 2018. And if I may say, we, because all of us are on the board, would like to present a little gift here in recognition of him to the Pittman family. And this is a shadow box for them to have, and another will be placed in the Gordonsville High School trophy case in memory of Scott to remain from now on. So if you all will bear with me and let me walk this down there to you, because Mr. Harold follows me every day and he knows I walk crooked and everything else, so if you just bear with me. He talks kind of hard about me every once in a while, Marty, I'm just going to tell you, but I do. So if y'all bear with me, I'd love to give this to you all. Yes, sir. And I'm sorry. I'll apologize for that, because I'm not going to be shy about it. Mr. Harold and I talk about it, and I get kind of emotional about it. So if the principal and coach have something to say, I did not mean to overlook you, but it's a little bit overwhelming when forgive me. When a young man has left that kind of impression on the community. I'm so grateful for that, and so grateful that we have so many more young folks that do that. This world needs that terribly bad, because some of us adults have not done too good of a job managing it, or it wouldn't be the shape it's in. So thank you all for that, but obviously, if you have something you'd like to say, please do. Thank you so much, Mr. Bates. And y'all are welcome to stay and listen to the rest of this big thick book right here, or you're welcome to do whatever you want to. Thank you.
Sorry for y'all's loss.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
Thank y'all, everybody. Thank y'all, everybody.
Sorry for your loss.
God bless y'all.
I'm kind of like Scotty, I'm screwed up in the head.
Now, I just said I walked,
I will pull your chain.
I just said I walked crooked. I didn't say I screwed up in the head. He's adding two now, ain't he?
Okay, we'll move on to our, get my sound here on. We'll move on here to our consent items, which being approval of board minutes, Carthage Elementary's purchase request for a copier, permission to apply for the CTE School-Based Enterprise Startup Grant, permission to bid on a dishwasher machine for Smith County High School.
I'd like to make a motion to approve all the consent items.
We have a motion, second.
Second.
Any discussion? If-
That was Mr. Lewis.
Yes. If you don't care, let's do a roll call on that. Mr. Jones? Mr. Apple? Mr. McCallum? Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Manning?
Yes.
Mr. Glover?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Self, yes. Okay, superintendent actions. I guess you've all looked at that. Got any questions? Not, we'll move on to unfinished business, which was the approval of the bipolar project. I think that has pretty well been stated in the motion that we had to have approval from the comptroller's office in Nashville. Obviously, they're not going to give us that, so really, I see no other action needs to be taken at this time. But unless the governor was to step in, you're correct. Yes, sir. Unless he writes us a letter and saying it's okay. We can't go any further with it because the motion was put that away, and that's the way it's got to set. So, no other discussion on that. You have something, Mr. Lewis?
Just one question, Mr. Chairman. While this is standing off to the side over there, whatever you want to call it, because we're not going to get that letter, obviously, Mr. Director, can we be exploring other ways to utilize this funding?
Oh, absolutely. We're not gonna lose it. We just don't know. We're gonna see what our roofing costs. We feel like that, some of you'd asked me about the Carthage Elementary. It's gonna run over, we think, over what the bid was. And we don't have the bid all back on it yet. We got about 70%. So we will definitely roll it back in, be well used, but we'll keep the board well informed of that.
Well, I mean, I just know other board members have had things they've expressed that had problems that need to be addressed and everything. I just want to make sure we's utilizing that money and just getting on with it.
Okay, go.
Some of you
Go
had
ahead.
asked, we will try to roll it into bond. Some of you'd asked about that. I don't think at this point they will, but they could. If we decide to go vote the bond, that would be an option. We would try, but I don't know they will let us do that. I'll make that clear.
Will you have to submit a change to the application? Because
Yeah, yeah. Well, it would just be a change. We'd have to rewrite that, that's an ongoing thing, just like right now on the ESSER 3, they've kicked it back twice already. And we'd have to change some wording back and forth, hopefully they'll approve what we put in, but you don't know. Just like you've been watching the news with the preliminary a month ago on the infrastructure grant, before it even got approved, we had to turn in, but we don't, that's just a real rough draft, and it's a work in progress. What they would let us do, no,
Anybody else? Not, let's go on to new business. Approving the 2022-23 school calendar. I know you've all had a chance to look at that. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Any discussion? Move on to New business B, purchase request for 65 phones through ENA Internet Service. Do I have a motion? Second?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Discussion. I think we was gonna have Dusty, is he gonna speak to this?
Well, you had him here in case there's any discussion. He's a little aggravated at me because it cost him about $3,000 us waiting, because the thing about it was, they're having to purchase, anybody else that bids has to purchase the internet service from ENA. So there's no way anybody physically could beat them, but that's the main reason I think they done sold you phones too, hadn't they? Had to reorder. I don't want to speak for him.
Back there, I thought maybe he was speaking about it.
Yeah, I think he's here if you got any questions for him.
I have a question. Does DTC offer anything that's compatible with this?
They do, that's what we're saying, but they can't. They gotta purchase their service from ENA.
Right, and I talked to DTC on 2 different occasions trying to work it out to be a better, more affordable price. And we could, and we left, good terms, I mean, we're still partnered up with the games and, our theater program and all that stuff. I mean, we left on good terms, but it's just, for the school, it's just a whole lot better. Half price.
Any more questions? Got a motion second. On that, I guess, we need to do roll call on that one, or just money? That's what I was thinking, we're doing money on it. Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Apple?
Yes.
Mr. McCaleb? Okay, sir. Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Manning?
Yes.
Mr. Glover?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Okay, one-time COVID-19 appreciation bonus. Do I have a motion on that one?
Make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
In discussion?
I'd just like to say on the record, I think it's a pretty fair deal that from up with here.
We tried to think of what was fair for everybody across the board, so.
And this is something that we plan on getting out before Christmas, correct?
We're gonna do our best, and we think we can.
I
As a
have,
matter of fact, Norma told me to call her Michigan, there much y'all decided to.
because I asked Mr. Smith on this, that we do this before. That's the reason it was brought up now, to get it on December's checks for the all employees to have, to help them through Christmas and stuff, because according to the economy, things, your turkey is not going to be as cheap as it was last year, so.
I have a little concern with this.
Yes, sir.
It's an unexpected expense of about $500,000. That's a pretty big concern of mine. That's something that we didn't plan on, and I know that we didn't plan on COVID either. It's hard for me to swallow, pulling that much money out of our general fund.
You want to speak to that, Mr. Director?
What, I can't
You want to speak to that?
speak. What did he say? I couldn't hear your last question, Dave.
He was,
Yeah. We will, if that's something the board chooses to do, we will try to write the grant. I don't know they'll do that, like I talked to some of y'all earlier. I can't guarantee you that will happen. I know other systems have put it in, but it was in the front of the grant on the ESSER 1 or 2. Which one was it? The 1. I don't think anybody got approved on the 2, but can try that, okay?
It makes sense to do that first.
But you ain't gonna get in it would, but you can't get into Christmas, be the only thing.
And this is also money that we were planning to use for roofing and things of also, correct?
Well, there's money you have to set, the ESSER 2, the ESSER 1 is done appropriate spend. The ESSER
Correct.
2 was money that we would have rolled over, since we didn't do the ionization system, we would have rolled it over either into the elementary project or the roofing, more.
Correct.
But it would take somewhere.
So we would take some of
It'd
that,
only be 356 of the 500 too, it wouldn't be the entire amount.
correct.
any more discussion from anyone? We'll do a roll call on this one. Mr. Jones?
No.
Mr. Apple?
No.
Mr. McCaleb? Mr. Taylor? Mr. Manning?
Yes.
Mr. Glover?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Next thing is the new policy, 5.3052, COVID-19 leave. Do you have a motion on it?
Was we gonna act on this when we had, or was we gonna defer this to next?
That's up to y'all.
I believe what we talked about was deferring to the next meeting.
Mr.
get
Chairman, I'd
a-
like to table this to next month's meeting and let Mr. Smith come back with a proposal with the board.
All right, sir.
So I'd like to make a motion to table.
Okay, Mr. Manning's making a motion to table this one. Do I have a second?
Second.
Lewis, second. Any more discussion? All in favor? Opposed? The FY22 grant approvals. Do I have a motion? Second?
So-
That was Apple,
Uh-huh.
Glover.
Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? 2021 LEA compliance report. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Manning. Second? Jones, or what was that?
Taylor.
Taylor.
Mr. Taylor, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Smart board purchase request on technology. Do I have a motion on this one?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Jones.
I'd like to make a
Make-
discussion on this.
Okay, yes, sir, go ahead.
I got some questions on these things. I know I looked them up and did a little research on my own, but how much are these really gonna be used in the classroom? Do we have any in use now?
On the smart boards,
Yes.
yes, they're being used and we're getting hammered by requests for them right now. And now to say, it's like everything else, it's just, they used them several years ago quite a bit. Now they're going back to them quite a bit. We've got one school that's almost complete. Most of these are being paid for out of federal money,
Yes.
but they are being utilized.
And what's the life expectancy of each board? I mean, how long do they last?
Any further asking, we've had some pushing 10 years,
We-
now, those first
some
one
are-
in opening.
Some are close to 10 years and still going, and I myself.
But they're changed too, ain't they?
Yeah, and the newer ones are actually even nicer, and work, the new ones that we got for actually a little bit less than I think we were getting the old ones. They're actually nicer and better built. I didn't really care for the old ones that much, but they're still working. I haven't had to replace a single smart board. Even the old ones that are 10 years old, I was in probably 5 rooms today with smart boards, and in those rooms, a couple of them for an hour and a half, 2 hours at a time working on a problem. Smart boards were in use the entire time that I was in the room. The lights didn't come on. That's how much they're using these smart boards. Look, I used to be a proponent of it, but I go in the rooms now and I see them used, the way that they're used, and especially with how much easier these new ones are to use, it's almost a no-brainer.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to say, in the brief period of time I've been on board, you know, everything we've done that Mr. Clare has brought to us has been successful. And I have a great deal of confidence in his abilities and skill sets there. And you know, we haven't had anything fail and everything's worked good. I appreciate what you do and thank you for bringing it to us.
Any more discussion? Roll call. Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Apple?
Yes.
Mr. McCaleb? Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Manning?
Yes.
Mr. Glover?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Myself, yes. We'll go on to the next item is Chromebook purchase. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Manning.
Second? Mr. Taylor. Any discussion? If not, roll call, Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Mr. Apple. Mr. McCallum. Mr. Taylor. Mr. Manning.
Yes.
Mr. Glover.
Yes.
Mr. Lewis.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Permission to sell school bus number 7 on Governor Deals, governordeals.com. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Any discussion?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I want to commend Miss, having good people. We were selling 600 to 1,200 is about what we was getting out of these buses, and she's averaging nearly 4,000 on them now, putting them on this. It's really taken out, it's getting us a more of a global view, and it's really improved what we're getting. It's not much on 100,000, but it's better than what we're getting.
Good, good. Any more discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Bid approval for gasoline fuel. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second? Any discussions? If not, roll call, Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Mr. Apple. Mr. McCallum. Mr. Taylor. Mr. Manning.
Yes.
Glover.
Yes.
Mr. Lewis.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Bid approvals for diesel fuel. Do I have a motion?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Lewis, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Jones. Any discussion? All in favor, we're gonna do, well, excuse me, back up here, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. We can do a roll call. Mr. Jones.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, okay, Mr. Apple.
Yes.
Mr. McCallum.
Yes.
Mr. Taylor.
Yes.
Mr. Manning.
Yes.
Mr. Glover.
Yes.
Mr. Lewis.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Next thing is discussion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
before you leave new business, going back to the bonus vote.
Yes, sir.
Probably, should call this center, anybody with a relative working for the school system should say, I have a relative working for the school system, my vote is in the best interest of the school system.
Okay.
Go around and say anybody that has a relative that would benefit from the bonus, that's probably going to be put on the record.
I have a relative, and I'm in for the best interest of the school system.
I also have a relative, and I'm in the best interest of the school system.
I also have a relative, and I'm in the best interest of the school system.
And I have a relative that's in the school system, and I think it's for the best for the schools.
I also have a relative. I think the best interest of the schools.
Small town, I feel as if we're all gonna have a relative.
Thank you, Chairman.
Yes, sir. All but two, Mr. Jones and Mr. Lewis. Huh.
Two, hold on. Manning, Glover, Taylor, Shoulders, Apple, okay.
Okay. Okay, next thing will be discussion on the commercial advertising on school buses.
Yes, sir, I'd like to address that
Yes, sir, go ahead.
rapidly. I know that we have had a lot of debate about this in the work session, and, yeah, I'm not real well versed in it, but I've listened to a lot of passionate talk about it. I'm going to, based on that, I'm going to make a motion that when we go into our training with TSBA, we review the recommendation on the policy of TSBA, and when it comes time that this contract comes around again, we review the policy again to make sure there's been no changes and establish a policy moving forward of how this works. Yes, sir. I
Yeah,
think
at the
we'll
end
be,
of this
I
contract.
think we'll be talking about it before it
Yeah,
expires.
We'll need a
Yeah.
policy before.
Yeah, for then.
Yeah,
And like Mr. And like Mr. Lewis said, we've got a work session coming up in 2 months, and that'd be an ideal spot.
absolutely. Yes, sir.
Okay, we have a motion from Mr. Lewis. Do I have a second? Second. Got a second. All in favor?
Yes, sir.
Opposed? Let's go on to school audit 2021 and 2020 and 2021, excuse me. Discussion.
I'd like to commend the schools for a system our size. We had a fantastic audit overall. Segregation of duties, we've just about got that wiped out, which they said was impossible. The principal's done a really good job of that. The few minor infractions we will address one-on-one and at the principal meeting, but it's really come a long way. It's really, really good overall. And the principals and the bookkeepers need the credit for that. Sir?
Do we need a motion to approve that? Or do we need a motion to approve that? Or is that just discussion? Okay, all right. Okay, all right. Okay, that's the only thing we got on the, discussion list. Annual policy reviews for October. I hope you've had all a chance to look at that. Anything, executive session, we don't have anything from that, so reminder that, board meeting is Tuesday, December the 14th here. We got a retreat on Tuesday, January the 18th here from 8 to 4. And then the board meeting, will be directly after that. Well, within an hour after that. What day? It's on the bottom of your book there. It's, 18th. Yeah. January the 18th, right after the, that'd be our board meeting, but with that, we'll spend the day here that day. So, with that, any other questions? Do I have a motion to adjourn? Mr. Manning, do I have a second? Second. All in favor? Opposed?